Hello, listeners!
We are your hosts, Lauren
and Sarah,
and today we're presenting to you a bloody tale. In each episode, our team has researched a case for us to present. This case revolves a relationship and marriages, as well as the others, that all end in murder, but also have another layer of intrigue. Our audience will have to decide whether the tale we're telling is fact or fiction. The answer will be revealed at the end of each episode, so make sure to stick around to find out if you're correct or not.
Today we're going to be talking about the case of Tommy Ziegler. This case is an absolute whirlwind and takes place almost entirely in a 2-hour span of time. We're going to try and present it as concisely as we can. So let's get into it.
It's Christmas Eve, 1975, picturesque for Winter Garden, Florida. Many of the town's important figures are in attendance of a Christmas party celebrating the year they've had. Winter Garden Judge Theodore Van Deventer, known as Ted by friends, was hosting the party. The Zieglers, Tommy and Eunice, were late. That wasn't exactly unusual for the couple. Police Chief Don Fick said the two were late for every social event. The couple was even supposed to pick the police chief up and give him a ride to the party. However, when the couple was late, he and his wife decided to drive themselves to the party. At approximately 9:15, Ted, the judge, his phone rang. The caller asked for Fick, the police chief. Since the chief and Tommy were friends, Fick recognized the man's voice and was struck with panic, as Tommy said to him, "Don, I've been shot. Please hurry."
Fick rushed to grab the police chief from the neighboring town of Oakland, Chief Robert Thompson, and informs him of the situation. Together they scramble for the Ziegler furniture store. The furniture store is why the Zieglers were considered a big name in Winter Garden. It was highly successful, and along with a couple of apartment buildings under the family's ownership, also in Winter Garden, they were supposedly pulling in about $1 million a year.
As the police chief pulled up to the store, they spotted Tommy through a large glass window. Tommy unlocked the door and collapsed into Thompson's arms. The Oakland chief carried Tommy to his police car and drove him to the hospital. This all happened within about 5 minutes, and before two of Fick's patrol officers could even begin a search of the store, Thompson was back from the hospital with news of what Tommy had told him before he was whisked away to surgery. The injured man had told him, "Charlie Mays did it, but I got him. He's in the store."
That gave the officers some clue as to what they should be looking for. They knew Charlie Mays. Mays was a black man, which may seem unimportant now, but comes up later. The man was also a longtime customer of the Zieglers and an avid gambler. They'd even arrested Mays a few months prior for gambling. However, despite a criminal record, Charlie Mays had definitely never been known for violence.
They all moved into the store, slowly, since it was unknown if Charlie Mays was still a threat or not. It was oppressively dark, which was uncharacteristic. Not even a single display light remained lit. As they cautiously roved around with their flashlights, they finally shined upon a body. But it wasn't Charlie Mays. The body belonged to a white man. This was the officer's first indication that something bigger was amiss this Christmas in Winter Garden than just an attempted robbery.
By the time Orange County Sheriff's Detective Don Fry arrived at the scene, it was 11 p.m., and the local officers had turned the lights on to the bloodbath that was inside of the furniture store. 4 bodies lay inside, one of them Charlie Mays. As the chiefs filled the detective in on what had happened that night, they told him about how Thompson had thrown an injured Tommy over his shoulder in order to move him to his police car. However, Thompson was wearing a crisp white button-up that night, and there wasn't a drop of blood on that shirt. They looked in Thompson's car as well, and found no blood inside of it either. Yet another indication that something strange was going on.
The detective had recently been trained on blood spatter, and boy was there a lot of it in the case. Charlie Mays had obviously been shot, but aside that wound, he'd also been severely beaten and nearly smashed in. And another inconsistency revealed itself. In the blood surrounding Mays, they found a shoulder holster. Despite lying in a pool of blood, none had transferred onto the holster. It must have been dry when the holster was placed there. Nothing seemed to line up. The sheriff's department took over the case within an hour. Fick wasn't upset. It was obvious this case was bigger than the Winter Garden Police Department could feasibly handle. Their department was small and ill-equipped for large, multiple homicides.
Among the dead besides Charlie Mays was Tommy's own wife, Eunice. She must have been the first to die via a gunshot to the back of the head. The police had been searching for her, along with Eunice's mother and father, Virginia and Perry Edwards. They were both shot just steps inside the store, but both had survived the first shot. Virginia had hidden amongst the furniture, while Perry fought greatly with his attacker. Their efforts would prove to be futile. The bar stool that Perry picked up to defend himself would break the gun the attacker was using, and break the tip off of a nylon glove the killer was wearing. However, the killer then hit him with a large metal crank typically used for a roll-up door, sealing his fate. Virginia, hiding amongst the furniture at the front of the store, was then fatally shot in the head. Evidence from a wound in her hand suggested she must have been covering her head with her hands as she was killed. The family had all ridden down to the store together under the pretense of picking out a new recliner for Perry as a gift for a Christmas day none of them would live to see.
Hours after police had found the bloodbath in the furniture store, a migrant fruit picker comes forward to tell the police of his bizarre night that might give the sheriff's department a little more insight into Tommy's whereabouts and timeline of the night. The man's name was Felton Thomas. Now, Thomas was a friend of Charlie Mays and said that Mays had asked him to go for a ride, and they'd ended up at the Ziegler furniture store. Mays told Thomas that Ziegler had told him to meet after hours at 7:30 in order for Mays to buy a new television for his family before Christmas morning. When Ziegler showed up, however, he told them to get into his car, and the trio drove to an orange grove, where Tommy then told him to test fire a couple of guns for him. Once they did, Ziegler drove them back to the store and claimed he forgot his keys at home. Ziegler requested that Mays break a window so they could get in. However, when the man refused, they drove to Ziegler's house to pick up the key. When they got back to the store, it was pitch black, and Felton Thomas had a paranoia of dark stores, telling the police that he had refused to go in and drove himself back home.
Felton Thomas's story was certainly unusual, but the story of Edward Williams truly nailed the coffin for Tommy. Williams was a longtime handyman and worker for the Zieglers. He'd known the family for upwards of 20 years. The two were friendly. Ziegler even loaned Williams money the same week. The night of Christmas Eve, around 8:40, Ziegler asked Williams for some help on some last-minute deliveries. He wanted to make sure everybody had their packages by Christmas morning. The two met at the Ziegler home and drove together in Williams's truck to the store. He let Ziegler out at the front like he's told to do, and then drove around back because all of the packages would be there. When he hops out of his car and heads into the building, it's pitch black inside. And as his eyes adjust to the darkness, he reaches the end of a hallway and sees Tommy a few feet in front of him. A gun wrapped in cloth pointed straight at him. Williams is luckily saved by the fact that the gun must have jammed, because when Tommy attempts to fire 3 shots, none of them actually go off. Tommy immediately claims he didn't know the man he was firing at was Williams, and tries to get the man to go further into the store. However, Williams has all of the sense that girls in horror movies never do, and he runs like a bat out of hell. Tommy chases him to the far end of the parking lot, where Williams is climbing over a chain-link fence, and gives up while Williams runs to the KFC across the street. Williams tries to use the KFC phone to call the police, however, he can't seem to get through, so he flags down some friends who are passing by. They drive him to pick up his other car, which was in the shop at the time, and then Williams drives straight to the police station. He tells the police his story around midnight. Before he leaves, he tells police that he has the gun Tommy attempted to kill him with. When the man attempted to kill him, he tried to calm Williams down by handing him the gun to convince him to come further inside. The police collect the gun, as well as Williams's shoes and clothes. Nobody tries to question Williams's story, even when the gun in question came back from forensics as the gun used to kill Perry in Virginia. Williams also mentions he might have seen blood on Tommy's face and hands. Police do investigate Felton Thomas's story of the orange grove in order to prove Tommy's whereabouts. They spend hours searching and find only one bullet that does test as matching one of the guns used in the murders. The police conclude that Tommy must have been attempting to use his black friends as fall guys for the murders of his family. He must have shot himself and called the police afterward, and the plan was to frame Charlie Mays, Felton Thomas, and Edward Williams as robbers.
So, now you've heard our tale, have you decided? Do you think it's real, or do you think it's fake?
It is real. This multiple homicide is somewhat contested, though, due to new blood evidence and some intense jury intimidation. To learn more about Tommy Ziegler's conviction and sentencing, listen to our episode that will go over all of the outcomes of our real cases.
Thank you so much for listening and guessing along with us today. We appreciate all of your support. If you'd like to get updates on whenever we post, you can click the subscribe button down below and make sure to leave some comments down so we can hear your thoughts. We'd love to hear anything you have to say. Our social media will also be linked below if you'd like to learn more about our perspectives.